everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi, on the stage. I just finished up a very busy month of dancing, and I will be back on stage in just a couple weeks at Shakers Show Lounge in Surrey. If you're in British Columbia, Canada, that is where you can find me next. But I do post everything on my story. If you want to come and chat with me and hang out and talk about podcasts, that would be super cool. If not, you can also find me on OnlyFans. I'm also a digital content creator, and I was also a former sugar baby many moons ago, and I speak about those experiences in my earlier episodes. So be sure to peep that if you're interested. But the show is not about me. I do bring on different guests on in the adult industry, whether they're porn stars, cam models, or strippers, people in production, people behind the scenes, allies, people that really want to support our work and to better understand our work. I do this to really provide a really transparent approach to sex work and to provide a better understanding and a learning in terms of like our work, because obviously our work is very, very highly stigmatized, and I'm kind of just doing my part in trying to just destigmatize the industry and to humanize us in terms of sex workers. So I try to bring on different people on every single week, including this week, which I will be very, very excited to announce this week's guest, plural. And before we pop into that part, I just want to do a quick little shout out to the top tier Patreon subscribers who are getting the opportunity to view this wonderful video content that's just found on Patreon. So shout out to Jay Suncern. Thank you so much for upgrading to the top tier. Really, really appreciate that. We got Snoo all the way from Germany, Herb Sarkar and Justin Erickson, and of course all the others that are on the lower end tiers, which is there's nothing wrong with that. It's as low as the price of a coffee. It's super accessible, and you can find lots of bonus content on there, all the video exclusives, me kind of like showcasing who's going to be on the show next. Lots of fun stuff and goodies there that you can find on patreon.com/strippedbysia. So, okay, going back to this week's episode, I'm super stoked to finally get this group on to the show. It's been months in the making and months since we've connected. So I'm super stoked to bring on We Are PS Group, which is a creative marketing agency specifically targeted towards sex workers and people within the adult industry. And I have the founder and CEO of PS Group on the show today, Carly David, as well as one of the many consultants. We have Siri Dahl, who is very, very famous in the adult industry. And also to kind of plug myself too, I'm also the dancer consultant at PS Group as well. So it's going to be a fun, packed conversation over the next hour and just a little bit. But Carly and Siri, are you there?
Hello, yeah.
Hiya.
Siri.
I feel like there's absolutely going to be a blooper reel out of this one.
For sure. Only found Patreon, but yes, definitely for sure. I'm so stoked to have you both on the show today. And of course, we can't have the entire team because that would just be like a giant Zoom party, which would be fun, but really hard to coordinate. But I'm really stoked to just hear all about the group. I mean, I know about the group, but I want everyone else in the world to know about the group as well. So I don't know, maybe Carly, did you want to kind of start off the conversation in terms of like who you are, how you got started, and how you started PS Group?
Well, sure. First of all, thank you so much for having us. It has been, like you said, quite a process in the making, and I'm so thrilled to be here today and to have Siri joining me with you. But my background, I'm Carly David, by the way. My background is that I was originally in entertainment, working for film and TV, and then eventually transitioned into advertising agencies for about 15 years. Now, while I was in those ad agencies, I also entered the world of adult and sex work. And so it was sort of VP by day, lady of the night. And it was not my first entry because I had known different niches, different representations of sex work throughout my life. But this was my entry, I would say. And I just discovered what an incredibly, oh God, it's rainy season.
Same here,
Yeah,
by the
it's gonna
way.
be pouring. Yeah, and so basically, I just discovered in such a wonderful, warm fashion this community, and I had never really experienced anything like it. I would say there's something extraordinarily special about our community and this industry as a whole. And when I decided that I got burnt out in the rat race, and I actually ended up moving to Mexico, um, good side of the wall, I will tell you. It's a yeah, but I realized that there was a gap, there was a real need. And it started out with me and my jammies learning websites, making websites. Rand Fullerton, who's our creative director, came on board. And we've been through a variety of incarnations. And I am really, really proud of where we are today. And I attribute that partially to the shift in the political and social landscape, and as a result of the pandemic, honestly, getting sex work into the public eye in a way it had not been as exposed before, in a way that was more accessible. And I just started meeting people and connecting with individuals who really care about this industry in and share my love for the people in it. And I was able to meet women like you and like Siri and like Alexander Snow and the amazing people that are on our growing team. And it's just sort of been almost a runaway train
Yeah.
in the most positive way. In the most positive way. We've had a really big week this week, so I'm just absolutely on cloud nine, and I'm just so optimistic about what we can offer sex workers in this world and what we can learn from them, and collectively how we can make a change
Mhm.
and make the world better for not just us but everyone in general because of diversity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, like you kind of mentioned something earlier that like an idea popped up in my head, but like, for people in our industry, in the sex industry, it can be really hard for us to trust people to make our websites or trust people to do our branding. And like you said, you're kind of finding a niche and there's that need there for this kind of agency and for these offerings. So I think it's really admirable what you have created. And like, for those who don't know, PS Group has some pretty big clients. I don't know if anyone wants to like run the list down, but there's so many clients and each website is so different and just so amazing. Like the one you showed me today was just like, oh my God. It's just
Thank
amazing.
you.
So incredible.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to have had the opportunity to meet sex workers with such diverse skill sets. I mean, honestly, we all have diverse skill sets as a requirement for this industry. But the really amazing thing is that I want to hire people who are not as good as me, who are better than me, and I will learn from. And I think we have a lot of complementary facets to what we offer on our services menu. Did we mention, probably not, we totally glazed over it, that we are 90% current and retired sex workers?
Yes. Yes. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Thank you for popping in here for that.
We're kind of like, that's our DNA, so we forget sometimes to articulate it. But yeah, it's it's exciting. it's an exciting time.
Very, very. And like there's so many people that are part of the team, including yourself, Siri, that I know you focused a lot on branding and strategy. And before we kind of get into those details and stuff, I'd love to introduce you to the audience and for you to kind of tell people who you are, how you got started into the industry as well, and to, yeah, give you a little limelight here too, because you also do amazing work too.
Thank you. Yeah, so my role in PS Group, I'm a branding consultant for both porn sex workers or like online content creators, however people want to be labeled, uh, as well as for full service sex workers. And I really love having those conversations about branding and that strategy, how best to market yourself to not only cater to the audience that you have, but how to build that audience and how to recruit the audience that you want if there is a mismatch between what you have and what you want. Um, I've always been very passionate personally about my branding as an adult performer. I started in 2012, so I'm definitely someone you would consider a veteran in the industry. And by the way, for the porn industry, especially on the studio side, if you're in for even like a year, technically that makes you a veteran because the churn of people who enter and exit the industry is insanely
Yeah,
fast.
I was just sorry, I hate
Yeah,
to interrupt, but I just interviewed with Cindy Starfall. She said the same thing. She said, on average, it's 9 months in the industry. So 9 months to a year is what I hear. It's crazy.
correct. It's yeah, a lot of people come in, they make some cash, and then they dip out, and for whatever reason, there's nothing wrong with that. But it is the vast majority of people who work in adult don't stick around for years and years. So I started in 2012. I was active, and when I started, I was only doing studio productions because in 2012, things like OnlyFans didn't exist yet. There wasn't a huge market for performers and content creators to sell their content individually to their fan base. So I relied wholly on being hired for a shoot here and there by big studios. I lived in California at the time. In late 2014, I stopped shooting, and then by the first month of 2015 was retired and moved. That's when I moved out to Kentucky. And I won't get into the reasons why. If people are curious about that part of my story, they can go listen to other numerous interviews I'm on. uh, or like I used to have my own podcast called After Adult, and I talked about it there. So there's ways people can find that part of the story. I'll skip over that. Fast forward to 2020, January 2020, I decided to come back into the adult industry full time. And I decided to do that in January. So it was like right before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and then I was like, oh, now I'm stuck at home. Um, but it's been great. I kind of like hit the ground running as far as like coming back into the porn industry. I was lucky that my fan base was still very much there, and honestly like waiting for me to resurface. So it didn't really feel like anything skipped a beat. And yeah, so I've been doing my thing since then. And I think one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about branding specifically is because I had to work my ass off to brand myself the way that I wanted to be viewed by the industry because I am a thick woman. And in 2012, there was not a market for thick girls in porn. It was either straight size models, like more petite women, or BBW as a niche. And if you did BBW work back then you would never get hired by the studios that were considered more quote unquote mainstream. So, and I was, I'm still thick now, but I was thicker then even. And I understood that dynamic immediately upon coming into the industry. And I understood if I'm not very careful about how I brand myself, I will get pigeonholed into one type of role and I'll never have the opportunities that I want. And also, the industry won't ever change. And things are so much better now. Things have changed. You actually do see a greater variety of body types in adult film. You do see big studios that previously would not have hired thicker girls going for people with that body type. expanding their definition of what is considered marketable and sexy. And I mean, the change isn't stopping here, you know. I I don't want to like pat myself on the back too hard, but I know that I had to have a hand in that because there weren't a lot of people who looked like me in 2012. Um, Not working for the studios that I ended up working for, I kind of forced people to accept me and carve a spot. I carved a spot for myself because I understood that no one else was going to do it. And so that's a huge part of why I know that why you recruited me into PS Group, Carly, and a huge part of why I'm passionate about it and very excited to be doing these consultations with sex workers, both veterans and people who are newer to it, because everyone can benefit from having those conversations and, you know, having extra
Oh,
help
yeah.
developing their career.
Definitely, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I actually think it's a great thing and a smart thing because I mean, for a long time, I mean, just talking about my experience as a sugar baby back in the day, this is almost 10 years ago. There wasn't a lot of help. There weren't any resources back then, like no blogs that I can look like forwards to or talk with anyone. It was really like isolating and lonely that I couldn't like share my experience with anyone. So like now that there's so many different resources out there, like your podcast or like this podcast or whatever, like it's so great that people are more than willing to help each other out. And that's like one thing I love about our industry is like everyone's just here to support and like wants everyone to succeed. And what you said about branding, I think that is so important because yeah, especially in the porn industry, like there's certain companies and production companies will try to make you in a certain way or like even like I guess quote unquote typecast you, and then you're just stuck like that for the rest of your career. And I think people often forget like no, you do have a choice and you do have a say. Although that might not be realized in the beginning of your career, I think it's important for you to kind of realize that kind of early on and take charge of that as much as you can. So really excited to kind of get more into the conversation too in terms of like PS Group and the different services and like the menu offerings that PS Group offers. There's just a lot of it because it's such a big topic and like that's a big part of marketing. So I don't know, Carly, like did you want to maybe try to tackle certain buckets, certain areas and services and stuff?
Sure. I just want to kind of give a shout out to Siri based on what we were just talking about is conscientious branding. And Siri, if you don't mind, it was that she was recently nominated for an award, and it was in the BBW category, which, and I thought the way, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but the
Oh,
way
sure, yeah.
you handled it, I think, was so classy and appropriate, and with the utmost respect for those who elect to brand themselves as BBWs. And I just wanted to like give you a shout out for that because that was appropriately handled
Oh.
in my
Can you
opinion.
give us context,
Thank
like in
you.
terms of like what happened and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and how you handled that situation?
Yeah. So there was an online like fan voting awards thing several months ago. And the way that this company decided to announce nominees for each category, and the category spanned everything from, you know, video awards, company awards, individual performer, like uh so as far as the individual performer awards goes, I received one nomination in one category, and that category was like favorite BBW model of the year. And I didn't even realize that I was nominated for it. I actually found out because Carly and another friend of mine texted literally at the same time within like 5 minutes of each other and were like, congratulations, like, because they were confused because my branding is not as a BBW model. I have never used that as a branding term for myself. So I mean, Carly, I know that you immediately were like, wait, this doesn't match up. And so I went to the site and I was like, oh yeah, well, hell yeah, there's my photo. Okay, that's a little weird that they put me in a it was unusual because usually with especially fan voted awards, in the adult industry, which there are tons of, every like brand, every like media brand, small brands like production studios, like tube sites, they all have their own like little award things that people can vote on. So typically the way that works is you submit yourself for a nomination, and then your nomination is either confirmed or it isn't. And if it's confirmed, then you go into the actual voting round, and then people can vote for you and you might win. This company, though, decided to not do a self-submission. They just nominated people without talking to them beforehand. So that's why I was irritated with it, honestly, is because I was like, wait, you didn't clarify this with me. How did you not understand that this is not my branding? Like, I have a presence on this platform. I don't ever use this term to brand myself. I don't sell my content this way. It's very weird that you'd put me in this category. Not only that, but it was disappointing to see because each category had a limit of 10 nominees, which means that by me being nominated in the BBW category, there is someone who does brand themselves as BBW, who wants that award, who is now not going to have a slot in the 10 nominees because I'm taking up a spot that I truly do not deserve, being someone who hasn't even marketed myself to that, that category, that fan base, like not my branding. So I declined the nomination. They did remove me from the page. And it actually was a very productive thing to do because it led to further conversations with that company about how they can improve those processes in the future. And not only that, but like how they can, on the production side, because this is a large company in the industry, and they do have, like, the site that did the nominations doesn't produce themselves, but they do have a partner company that does produce studio films. And that also then led to a discussion with that company of how they can refine their practices on the studio side to make sure that models they hire for films are opting into the kind of branding and marketing terms they want to be used to represent their brand. So it was a big thing that happened. It was a little stressful at first, but I'm glad it happened now, because those are the kinds of conversations that, especially when we talk about the porn industry on the studio side, those conversations need to happen, because we are in a new era now where the individual model is in charge of their branding. It is not the studio's decision how a model is branded. It used to very much be that way. It is not like that anymore. And I felt like my branding that I've worked for, that I've worked on for 10 years had been stepped on a little bit by this process of, not consulting me before I was put in a category that then was, like, in a way, marketing me in a way that I didn't want to be marketed. So, there's your context.
That's an amazing story and a really, really great example too. Why, like, with specific marketing and like conscientious branding is also really, really important. Like, and thank you for sharing that story. And that's just such a class act in terms of like how you handled that, and also really a productive conversation. I'm glad it kind of trickled into other conversations with the two companies that were involved as well. So, amazing, amazing.
Yeah. There's a method to my madness.
There's always a method.
There's always a madness, let's be honest. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason why that story and experience like came to mind was because of the fact that the industry, in basically every niche, I would say, has really gone through a dramatic shift in terms of power dynamics and being able to be the owner of your own brand, your own business, your own marketing plan, your own strategies, what feels good for you and what just doesn't work. And I think it's really important that we are now in a day and age in which we can voice what is working for us and what companies that may not be run by sex workers or have the ongoing input and feedback of sex workers, that we feel empowered, we feel validated, our voices are heard, and we matter. And I think the more sophisticated we are in terms of our business strategies and approaches and objectives and planning, it really only makes us stronger in terms of this overall fight we're at against the outside world, so to speak. But it really has been amazing. And Siri, I know you will agree that watching a decade go by, because I've been in this industry since 2012 as well, and watching the shifts and the exponential growth in terms of business savviness and approach and attitude and mindset and the discipline required. I mean, the reason why people leave after 9 months, in my opinion, is because it's a fucking grind.
Yeah.
It is so much
Sure
work.
is.
It is.
It is
It's one of the
so
biggest
much work.
misconceptions is that sex work is easy money. I'm sure that this comes up on the podcast,
A lot.
Sia. It is like, yeah, it's such a misconception. It's like, no, no, no. And now more than ever, it's like things are better, I think, now more than ever before, specifically, especially for online content creators. But also at the same time, that does mean that like you can have it all, but you're gonna work your ass off for it.
Yeah, you got to put in the work, and like a lot of people will not realize that or not put in the work, and then they're not a right fit for this kind of industry, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it really is. You do have to approach it. Run your business like a business. You run it haphazardly or with chaos, you will get chaotic results. You run it in a structured fashion and you discipline yourself and you attend to or delegate and outsource and build an advisory board and professional team behind you. And there are ways to do it affordably. There really are. But I think the fact that this is such a draining career, it really is. It's so exhausting because of everything it takes out of you, mind, body, and soul. And it's very easy to get burnt out in this business. So I am a huge fan of outsourcing and delegating and building support systems because number one, there's tied for number one is, are you able to support yourself and meet financial goals or work towards financial goals? And then secondly, are you still happy and not going insane? Because the mental well-being, because it's very, very tempting. I mean, look who's talking. I'm like, happy Sunday. Carly, listen to your own advice. Go to I'm like, go have fun Sunday. I'll be here working. But yeah, it's so easy to get burnt out. So easy to get burnt out because there's no 9 to 5 in this career and in this line of work. It is, and there's no graduating. As soon as you meet one milestone, you're already looking towards the next one. And you're like, how can I be more efficient, more effective? How can I get a better return on my investment? And how can I maximize my efforts so that I am able to meet those goals and not go out of my mind? You don't ever want to say, I will sleep when I am dead. Yeah.
there's really that delicate balance between, like you want to achieve it all, but you also don't want to, as you mentioned, burn yourself out because burnout, as you mentioned, is so common. I mean, like, what are some things that sex workers come to you for? Like, I would love to like kind of go into the different buckets of like what PS Group offers and like maybe some common requests and stuff too. Take it away.
I just totally hijacked that whole conversation. I was like, let's tell a story.
I love stories. I love tangents, by the way.
Yeah, so really quickly is that our primary services at this time, and we are obviously really growing. We've got about 4 people on the team who aren't even on the website at this point. We are rapidly approaching a team of 20 in 5 different countries. So I feel really badly for the people who try to coordinate team meetings because it's not even like herding cats, it's like herding fake cats. Like it's never gonna happen. They just keep slipping out of your grasp. But
Ghost
yeah,
cats.
Faux cats, faux pussy. Yeah, a faux pussy. Yeah, we start with branding and strategy, and then it sort of segues. Once you have that foundation, you know who you are, what your unique selling points are, how you are going to stand out in the market, because every one of us has quirks. And it is those quirks that people really respond to. And they're unique and they're different, and there is truly a market for everyone. Personally, I don't find it a turn on to have like tomatoes thrown at me, but I guarantee there are people out there who do and would love to have that need be met. So you would be surprised at some of the things that come up as like key differentiators. You never know. And that's actually sort of one of the reasons why it's great to have an objective
Mm-hmm.
sounding board for with consultants, is that we all have blinders on, or foggy spots where like I see something that Siri didn't see, but you saw something that I didn't see. And all together it becomes a cohesive foundation for you to build the design and the creative aspect, like the face of your brand in terms of colors and typography or graphics, just vibe, like what your brand is, what your brand isn't. And as Siri touched on, the idea of who are you trying to target? Because you can't appeal to everyone. You're going to appeal to no one if that's the case. So once you've got the branding, the strategy, you have a game plan and a blueprint of your house, then you can start decorating it. And that's when we develop and design websites. And like you said, every single one is custom. Not a single one will look like the other one. And that's just a choice we made. It's very creatively fulfilling, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. So maybe it's a little selfish on our part, but it's also, I mean, I think it is, we take it really, really seriously that you are investing in your livelihood, in your business by hiring us. So we do everything we can to provide the tools and resources and information and education so that you can go out with these tools and slay it. Um, but once a website is in, oh, we also have copywriting and editing, and that ties into search engine optimization, which we're really, really big on because I'm a firm believer that social platforms are a little not gonna happen for a long, for too much longer. So I was looking for like a nice way of saying it, and I'm like, screw it, they hate us.
And
Um,
Carly, can you
you
quickly define search engine optimization for those listening who might not be familiar with that term?
Yes, it is basically making your website constructed and presented in a way that is appealing to Google or another search engine, and basically bribes them into ranking you higher than an alternative website. I mean, bribe is a bad example. We don't do black hat SEO, which is like trying to outsmart Google. It doesn't work. It's not gonna happen. Like, move on, just play by the rules. Um, so basically it's just trying to get your website suggested on the first page of Google, which is technically free. Like, it is free traffic. It is just that you have to do a lot of work and a lot of investment,
Mhm.
whether it be time or financial investment by hiring someone uh, to make that happen.
Mhm.
Because it all looks the same on the outside, but underneath, like, the wheels are all working in, complementary ways that will hopefully boost your site in the eyes of Google and make you like the star.
Right. Yeah, and that's so important too. So 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 important for searchability and for people to find you. So so vital, especially if you
And also you're reaching a totally different demographic and audience than you necessarily would on Twitter versus TikTok versus Instagram versus an ad site versus press releases. Like, you really have to have a totally holistic marketing plan and mix. So that's something we explore in the branding consults. And I'm sure Siri can talk to her experiences with this a little
Yeah, I was
more.
just gonna say, I'm like, Siri, can you like walk us through like a consultancy call or like what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, so Carly has developed some, well, maybe with the help of other team members, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Carly. But there are some really detailed questionnaires that a new consult like request will submit, and those are pretty integral to the consultation process. So like, if I'm getting a client requesting a consult with me for full service or online like creator branding, the first thing I do is I look at those documents and really like I look at them immediately when I get them, because I want to have the first look before we even have the actual consult scheduled, because then I can let that brew, and I'll go follow the person, like find their socials so I can get a feel for who they are. And then by the time that conversation, our consult appointment rolls around, I've already gotten kind of a feel for this person, individual, and like what they're looking to achieve, what their goals are. And from then it just becomes a conversation where we get down into like the nitty gritty. Like we go over each detail of their career, their goals, with a focus heavily on branding and representation. And it's really fun. Like it's very satisfying to have those conversations, and also to like keep follow up afterward and be checking in with folks like, hey, so like, did you look into this thing, like how did that go? Like, I feel like we end up sharing with some of the clients that we've had, we end up sharing a lot of like cool lingerie sets, because that's a theme that keeps coming up. Is people are like, I want to like have this like cool, I have this idea for this photo set, and like what's like a good resource for me to like get this type of look. Like this is an aesthetic that I'm going for, and I'm a lingerie nerd, so I'm all like, like let me go find some stuff for you.
Yeah, you should see our Zoom chats. Our Zoom chats are like link, raw, picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fun. So, I mean, honestly, Carly, maybe we need to add personal shopping into the mix here, because
it's a new service being offered.
We actually did have it for a while, and then it just got a little unwieldy.
I can see that.
When you're just going down a Net-a-Porter rabbit hole for hours and hours, being like, "Oh, I want
dangerous,
that."
dangerous,
very dangerous. Mm-hmm. But that's actually a great idea. It is something I have absolutely considered, is like styling for photo shoots. It's something I've done like sort of as a one-off for existing clients who have requested it.
Cool.
And I really enjoy it, but it's a lot of time that's involved with that. So, and when you're investing in a professional photo shoot as it is, it's tough to prioritize. Like, do I spend more money on the location? Do I spend more money on edits or the photographer? Or do I get a million looks? So yeah, but we definitely sort of try to dissect and brainstorm just as much as we end up ending on implementation and actionable points on how to execute this new persona that they have refined and been, the executive of.
Right.
So yeah, we definitely sort of specialize, I would say, in individuals who have found a modicum of success on their own, and they're looking to either take it to the next level or allocate responsibility so they alleviate that time commitment. And subsequently also having objective experts who have like, we're experts because we just have done a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that we're like better or worse than other consultants or other options. It's just like over the span of like a 20-person team, I don't want to calculate. I don't want to calculate how many years we got in this one, like in this card. But
Yeah.
but I think it's just, and we all have different specialties and experiences. And just as a result of the collective knowledge and experience. And I think we're all just very curious individuals by nature.
Mhm.
So, and we're all empaths and we're all, we're all a little off anyway. Like we're all a little weird. So,
True.
I mean, I always joke, it's so funny. Like Siri's always eating in the consoles. Like you always have lunch.
I feel
And
like it's been more than once that I'm specifically eating banh mi. Like that's my like favorite. There's a place down the road from my house that has really good ones, so I'm always like, hold on, let me go get my sandwich.
and every time you do that, I'm always like, yeah, I've done a consult with someone in the shower. Like they were in the shower. I was not in the shower. They were in the shower. We have a client who every time we meet, she says, is it really a call with Carly about SEO if I'm not smoking a blunt? And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's required along with domain authority. So
I mean, steering back to like the different specialties that PS Group offers. I mean, just naming a few, we have consultants for TikTok, we have consultants for Reddit, we have consultants for camming. Siri, you do ones for adult production as well as full service sex work. There are so many loads of other categories that I'm missing. What am I missing, Carly?
dancer
Oh yeah, dancer
consultant.
consultant.
Because let me just slip in here saying that I think it's really really important that if we are going to say that sex work is work and we are solidarity, we are a single unified front, then we should not be uh, saying that certain sex workers are not within that
Thank
community.
you.
So I think it's really important that we are as inclusive as we possibly can be in terms of the experts and resources that are available.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to shout out Sia for coming on board and being like, yes, we can do this, and doing like market research even before you join. I'm like, okay, well,
Amazing.
that's overachiever.
Oh, I've always been an
Uh,
overachiever. Always. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, for any dancers listening out there, I know there's a lot of dancers that I work with that listen to the show as well. And a lot of you don't have websites and stuff like that too. Like, we'd love to hear from you. And also, like, especially if those that are touring. I know a lot of you are touring across country and across North America. This could be something that is super, super useful for you. So just listen in. And we will be hosting a dancer consultant live / workshop / consultancy thing at some point really soon, hopefully by the time this episode is airing. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I think it's also the really interesting thing about the emergence of online work is that there's a lot of hybrid sex workers now. And the question is, how do you leverage the buzz or the success or the awareness that you have in one sector of your work and integrate it with the different things you do? For someone who is a cammer and then also doing content, it's like, how do you have that crossover audience? Same with dancers. It's like if you're doing online content, how do you maximize your exposure and the work you're doing on that to turn into sales and asses in the club? I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous statement, but clothed asses in the club.
Well, it makes sense because like a lot of us are doing a number of different
Facing
things.
asses in the club.
But I feel like it needs to go beyond like a Linktree link, you know? It
Hmm.
needs to. And that's just like what I
Yeah.
personally think. But like for those who are curious, maybe Carly, you can answer this as well. But like, is this something, and I know the answer to this, but like for those who are who are listening and do not know the answer to this, is like for things that PS Group offers? Is this one whole package deal, or can you do an a la carte kind of, I don't know, pick and choose whichever one?
Actually, we are pretty flexible in terms of, we obviously advise like the best value because it's going to be consistent. Like tone, voice, imagery, everything is going to be consistent if you are packaging together a variety of services. Also, there are discounts involved because of that. We value when people want to trust us with a variety of their marketing needs. But yeah, absolutely, things are a la carte available. And we also usually do things in payment installments. Like, it's so much more important to us that we're working with people who are really excited to take control of the future of their business and brand, and they really care and they're hands on and they want to learn and they want to be involved in the process. And so that's more important than being like, okay, we've got this big ticket sale.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, it sounds so Pollyanna ish. It actually is the case. That's why I left the rat race,
And I mean, like going back, I mean, I don't know if we can talk about cost, but like, how is that structured? And for those who might be interested in this,
Yeah, typically it is based on a project. And those, depending on the service, it will be broken up either into two. Websites are typically broken up into three payments, actually. We do want to make it palatable and realistic, I would say. But we do really consider bespoke opportunities in which you're like, you know what, I would rather just pay the first of every month and like retain you for these specific services. I won't use anyone else, and you'll be like at the ready to do my work. So that's sort of like an agency of record retainer situation. But, and that's, I think that's more rare. That's more for like an organization or the very few companies we work with. Because generally, for the most part, obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, we do focus our clients on, or our client portfolio to be independent sex workers. So the companies we have worked with, the organizations, the nonprofits, are typically very closely tied to a current or retired sex worker, deeply involved at the leadership level. Uh, so yeah, I mean, obviously you're gonna have to invest in your business, but the value and the ROI, and we are so committed to tracking and data, making sure we have a clear, quantifiable way of knowing how successful these tools and strategies are for you. Everything is founded in data, and Siri Dahl has something to say.
I used the button. I didn't know you were going to immediately interrupt yourself. Well, I wanted to add a really, really like little bitty addendum because I know we say we're focusing on independent sex workers, and in the world of porn studio productions, that has a slightly different meaning because it means you don't have a talent agent. And I want to make clear that our services are 100% available to someone, for example, in the adult industry who has a talent agent booking their work. Our service does not conflict with that. You're not like signing a years long contract or something like that. We're not representing anyone that way. So just to clarify that little piece, because I imagine if someone's listening and that's the boat they're in, I want them to understand that we would still be a fit for them potentially. So yes.
Carly has something to say. I love this button.
I literally don't have something to say. I just wanted to push.
You just wanted to press the button.
This is amazing.
I just wanted to be like, hello. So yeah, Carly no longer has anything to say.
I mean, to kind of wrap up this conversation too, I just wanted to hear like, what are the most common things that people are coming to PS Group for? I hear a lot of branding. I hear a lot of strategy. Are there any parts that really stand out at all for either of you?
Crickets.
I think that's a Carly answer
Yeah.
because you have the like macro view. As the
Yes, that is
consultant,
true.
I don't see all the inquiries that come in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Although I will say it has definitely been interesting to see patterns and trends based on what's going on in pop culture, what's going on in the industry, how the world is shifting, and social dynamics and gender dynamics and like all of that. But I would say the vast majority of people who find our services the most beneficial and results producing are people who do have some experience of some sort, and they are looking to either solve a current gap or need, or something that, like with the branding questionnaires that Siri mentioned, we also have questionnaires for websites and Reddit marketing and all of that. We're big on the questionnaires. Is basically the idea that we want to know where you're confused, what you don't know,
Hmm.
what you're not sure about. Because if you knew all that, you wouldn't need to hire us.
Right.
If you know, and so Carly forgot the question.
Just like in terms of like what are most clients
Yeah,
coming to
yeah,
PS Group for?
yes. Basically, they want to be the owner of their own digital footprint, their own brand, their own business. So even if they're building a site that's basically a personal website that is not e-commerce, that isn't a clip store, it's not a fan site, it's basically just here I am, this is me. And this is where you can learn everything about me. This is where you find my links. And if they want to evolve into an e-commerce platform, that's something we do and we build. However, a lot of clients are at the place where they're like, I want to own my name on Google. I want to be this, like my website, I want it to be my digital home on the web. I want people to go to that first because they know it was directly from me. It is the official website. And also for like full service sex workers or dancers who tour, things like that, you're able to express things in a way that you can't necessarily in direct communication. It also is a lot more efficient that you're able to convey all of those facts, all those questions, all those answers, all those policies, all of those, fine print things in a way that is like out there. And you don't have to like, reiterate and be, a parrot almost. But yeah, I would say that everyone has different business objectives. Everyone has different life objectives. And we actually have people who have been working with us for years that come back and are like, I just want to do a check in, or it's time for me to be reviewing my analytics again, or let's freshen up the website. It's amazing that some of our clients that we've been working with, we've been in business for about 4 years now, 4.5, and we have clients who have become so successful that they're like on their 3.0. You know, it's they're ready to keep evolving because we're all evolving as humans and professionals and individuals, and so our business and our branding and our values obviously reflect that.
Totally. That's super awesome. And like I loved hearing all about this, and I'm sure we're only just scratching the surface at this point. But there are a couple of questions that came in, which we'll kind of just dive into that now. And of course, we'll be plugging all the links at the end of the show, so stay tuned for all of that. But I guess yeah, we'll pop into questions quickly. But I guess the first one, I think Siri, this would be a great question for you. This person writes in from Twitter, do you have any tips for growing my OnlyFans page as a new sex worker?
So growing your OnlyFans page, I would say the first thing that you should focus on, and this is before you ever even think about getting like some people do like to like buy promo for OnlyFans. It's pretty common. Before you ever get into that territory, thinking about that, focus on making your page as good as it can be. And the most important thing overall with OnlyFans is consistency. So whether that means, and that can mean whatever it means for your personal schedule. So it, like, for me, I try to corral all of my content shooting into 1 day per week, because I'm more likely to feel burnout if I have it scattered across multiple days and it interrupts other things in my personal life potentially. So I try to corral it all into like 1 day. But if I do that, then I know, okay, I have all these like custom videos and like this other like, type of content that I want to get shot that day. And sometimes my production day is also somewhat of an editing day, because I still, speaking of needing to delegate things in my business, I still haven't released my death grip on editing my own videos, because I like enjoy it a lot, but it's a lot of work.
Damn it, Siri, can you not foreshadow future services?
So the most important thing with OnlyFans is consistency. Think of it from the subscriber's point of view. Regardless of what you're charging for your page, or if it's a free page, you want to post very consistently and, send DMs if you're doing the unlockable thing. Not everyone does that on OnlyFans. There's different structures of ways to do it. But whatever you are doing, whatever way you're focusing most on delivering your content to your fans, make it really consistent. Try to post every day. And try to make them quality posts. And that doesn't necessarily mean you got to be doing a new solo video every day. Like, you can post, a lot of fans are going to want to see the real life stuff and like get into your place a little bit with you. I don't know what that even meant, get into your place.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you want to get a more personal view of you. Yeah. So consistency is truly key with growing an OnlyFans following. And I mean, obviously, it goes without saying, if you're on social media, definitely promote it there, but be careful.
Yes.
You cannot say the word OnlyFans on Instagram, for example. You can say it on Twitter. You might get some spam bots automatically replying to your tweet with their OnlyFans link, so watch out for that and ban them.
I hate that.
But yes, so definitely like share your OnlyFans link all over the place. Just be really careful with it. And if you want to try to promote it on Instagram, make sure that link is within a different site. For example, a site that PS Group builds for you. or if you're not ready to make that step yet, like some sort of link tree, link gathering thing, or just a simple forwarding link. Mine is SiriFanclub.com, and if you go there, it just forwards you right over to my OnlyFans page. And that's just there's obviously more to that, but I'll leave it at that to keep it kind of short and sweet. It is like I said, we talked about this earlier. It's a lot of work. But OnlyFans is my main source of income, and it can be a fantastic one. Definitely that consistency is key overall.
I would just tack on there something that I've got Alexander Snow like whispering in my ear here. The idea that it's also really, really helpful to have a library before you even start. Because that way you're going to give yourself a little bit of leeway and a buffer should, like, tomorrow you have a migraine. Like, who knows? Things that could come up. Being able to have that safety net almost so that you can take a breath. You don't have to stress. You don't have to freak out, which is always like counterproductive anyways. Being able to have that repository that you can rely on and like your emergency stash almost.
So great. Such sound advice. Thank you both so much for that. Last question here. I guess maybe for Carly, we'll quickly go into this. Is there a way I can do this cheaply or easily?
Absolutely. We do offer a lot of we do try to do a lot of education, which is something that does sort of run as a consistent, okay, I am speaking, I don't have something to say, I need to stop bouncing.
Click on your hand again.
You're like bouncing.
I was like, God, squirrel, stop. Yeah, it was, I would say that there's a lot of resources out there. And so we do try to provide as much free education and advice. So we will do webinars. We have a webinar on YouTube that we did with one of our clients, Little Puck, talking about how to actually create a website, not just in like, how do I buy a domain? Like, what is hosting? Things like that. It's about how do you have a vision for this website? How do you get from A to B? What are all those steps that you have to consider? And a lot goes into it. So we definitely try. We have a blog. Shout out for Sia's podcast blog post, which is fabulous. I mean, did you get that to me in like a day? That's ridiculous.
Overachiever.
Shout out to Miss Overachiever. but but the idea that there are resources out there, and when we can, we will absolutely advise as much as we can. So there are definitely ways to do it yourself, because we do have payment installments. If you come to us and you're like, would you be willing to do 4? We're like, yeah, okay, we'll work with you. Again, it is more about attitude and work ethic, I think.
Amen to that. Lots of free resources out
there. And luck.
And
luck.
That plays a factor as well.
It kind of does. It does. Yeah.
But Carly and Siri, it was so fun to have you on to the show just to talk about PS Group and all the amazing things that you do for this community. So thank you both for all the amazing work that you do. Seriously, if you guys haven't peeped the portfolio or the client list of PS Group, it's pretty freaking impressive. And each website I said is just so beautiful and like personalized, and just you have to peep it. So where can people find both of you, and where can we find all these links?
Okay, so PS Group, the agency, is at wearepsgroup.com. And then shocker, we are on Twitter and Instagram at wearepsgroup. So one of these days I will have my own Twitter, but right now I'm like, I am one. But yeah, and we have some YouTube link, who knows? But it's out there. Yeah. And we do, a lot of us speak at industry conferences and do podcasts. I know Siri is featured in the press a lot, so I will pass the torch.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm the Siri Dahl. Dahl is spelled Dahl. Siri is Siri. And you can find me elsewhere. I'm on Twitch, which is just Siri Dahl. My main website is also siridahl.com.
Yeah, and if you actually go to WeArePS Group /about, you can see photos, and if you click on the photos, you'll see bios and social links for our entire team that is added to the website so far.
Yeah, that's a big
there team. Will be more, and we are hiring. So if any sex workers out there really love the idea of being able to get involved in the industry and learn more about marketing and share what they know, you can always email us at careers@wearepsgroup.com.
Perfect. Yeah. And like let them know that you heard it on Stripped by Sia as well. And speaking of which, it's Stripped by Sia on Twitter, on Instagram, on Patreon. So patreon.com/stripped by Sia. And if you are listening, wherever you are listening, we're available on all major podcast platforms and listening platforms. If you're listening on Apple, feel free to write a 5-star wonderful review or a really bad review. I mean, I was encouraged like really honest feedback. Good or bad. And of course, if you're on Spotify, 5 stars would be really, really great. It really helps with searchability and people finding the show and whatnot. And that's it from me. And that's it from Siri. That's it from Carly. That's it for us today. So new episodes every single Sunday, dropping at midnight Pacific Standard Time. And we'll catch everyone next week for the episode. Thanks so much, guys. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.